Junjo Lee up to the stage to share the story of Gen Z from them. And so thank you, Nick, thank you, Catherine, and let's welcome Junjo Lee.
All right, go for it. Thank you. Hi, my name is Junjo Lee, and I am a food ethnographer. In 2018, I started a longitudinal Gen Z FOODLIFE cohort study to see the worlds they were making and making themselves ready for. I don't have the clicker. Thank you, Carlotta. So why do I care so much about this work? It's because of my son, Blue. I love him, and I almost lost him. Blue was born in 1998, and by high school, he had stopped talking to me. And I was afraid he would turn out like his biological father, a paranoid schizophrenic. And in 2018, I got the phone call. Mom, I'm not doing so well. I need your help. And the only thing I had to save my son was this work, my ethnography. You see, I was a Korean tiger mom. I thought being a mom meant show them the way, tell them what to do, who to become. That's how I was raised. I never stopped to ask Blue, who are you? What do you want? Who do you want to become? And Blue told me, Mom, I'm exhausted talking to you because you think I'm in your head. And he said, why don't you just treat me like your ethnography? Ethnog me, Mom. And so I did. Blue told me he feels like surfing. He feels like learning to surf. Being Gen Z feels like learning to surf. You feel like you're just about to fall off the board, crash into waves, plunge into the ocean, not know if you're up or down, not able to breathe. But he said, maybe someday I'll master surfing. So what do you do in a world where the ground is no longer the ground and there are no more guardrails to hold on to? This is the story of Gen Z. So who are they? I'm a Gen Xer. I think many of you may be Gen Xers and millennials. They're the children of Gen Xers, born between 1997 and 2012. They're the largest generation globally, and in fact, greatest proportions come from hot countries, Nigeria, Pakistan, India, and Indonesia. By next year, 27% of the global workforce will be Gen Zs. So they're not just your consumers and your shoppers, they're also your employees. And in the US, they're the greatest diversity we've seen so far. And they're also the most college educated, which means their food lives are expansive beyond their first family food traditions. So my research is really simple. Year over year, I ask Gen Zs, tell me what you're eating so I can see who you are. And if we can see who they're becoming, we'll also know what they'll be eating. So I think Carlotta and Catherine and Nick took you through the data. We're starting to see the emerging data of what they're eating. So this is the story of who they're becoming. For Gen Z, digital food life is nourishing. Tui told me in 2018, we're the same age as Google. We've never known a world without search or maps or even YouTube. And she said, "This isn't even my dog. He's a Korean dog I found on Instagram, but he's so cute and fat, and I love him. And when I'm feeling anxious or depressed, I'll just watch videos of this dog." Yeah, digital is an essential flavor, and we'll see that play out. Social suffering is a shared condition. Prudence told me, "I feel like crying all the time, but I don't have enough tears." And I love her thrifted Care Bear sweatshirt. You see there's a Band-Aid on her heart. And in a lot of ways, I think we broke their hearts. Let's see. Sorry. So this generation is feeling everything. They might not yet know how to articulate what they're feeling, but they are sharing it with each other. Overthinking hurts, but oversharing relieves. And food, textures, flavors are emotional medicine. They have a wide margin of error, so they eat a lot of gluten. They love carbs. Gluten is foods that bind us. Cute fats are foods that keep us warm and comfort us. They also love spicy foods because it wakes us up. They're third culture kids, and so they're the first internationalized youth generation. They're mixed and hyphenated, and it's not just only their ethnic identities. They're also open and hybrid, non-binary, queer by default. They're really exploring who they are. They have very fluid and creative identities. And if food is what we eat, their food is also very creative and very fluid. No change is kind of boring. So I'm Korean, and I learned about a K-pop band called BTS from Regina in Kyle, Texas in 2019. She said, "BTS saved my life." And let's hear what else she says. Roll video.
I'm really into a band, BTS. I had gotten into K-pop after I had gotten into anime because the songs are awesome. They're all very true to themselves. Literally everything I liked, K-pop, anime, art, all of that would not have been possible if I didn't have access to the internet. There is a difference between an online persona and a real life persona, but they definitely mix. Like, it's all the same person.
It is nice to be surrounded by people that you can kind of laugh and joke with. We always have dinner together, so like being able to like cook together is really important to me. I'm a big fan of breakfast, but also like Asian food in general. Korean barbecue style kind of cooking where like they have everything laid out and then you just cook it in front of you and you enjoy it like very shared meal kind of style, or even like hot pots and just like large serving sizes of things that we all then pick from and cook actively. I love that. I don't like wasting food. I don't like wasting resources. The worst thing that could possibly happen is we don't change and people still not getting enough.
After working that desk job in Austin, I realized I need interaction. I very much thrive in being able to do that. I obviously love Texas. I grew up there. And I've got spaces that I really like in areas I'd be willing to move to. So I've got that. I'm working with a whale tour company out in Juneau.
So back in 2019 in Kyle, Texas, when I was talking to Regina, she ended our conversation by saying, life just keeps on peaking. And then a couple months later, boom, COVID hit like bad weather. And so this generation, they're tagged by a global pandemic. They entered adulthood learning in solitary confinement and living on a terminal timeline. For Luis, tacos are family, tacos are friends. Tacos are hope for Luis. Roll video.
It's like the epitome of like what it means to be Mexican. How it's stocked with beans and meat and sweet and this. That feels like culture. It tastes authentic. It tastes real. I feel like really, I guess proud, honestly, like that my culture could make something so delicious. Because it's from my mom's hometown. This is from where we're from. For me, I'm on a scholarship. So when you're getting paid to do academic work, I think you're obliged to make certain sacrifices. And that's my job here. I never imagined to get this far. My Stanford email is literally like just my last name. The fact that your email is just your last name, like I'm the first son, I'll be there. It means a lot to me. I want to put my family on the map. I'm here to learn, enjoy everything I can, both the good and the bad. You could go on forever about climate change and war and COVID and people dying. So I think it's impossible to not be worried. I personally feel like climate change is inevitable. There's no way money-hungry people are going to stop being money-hungry. And people are telling you, dude, like all the carbon's already in the atmosphere. It's at an irreversible level. It's demotivating.
Here we are, Saturday night with the friends. In and out, greasy fast food. Makes me feel good. My stomach, not so much. Friends, I love it.
So I think we can see why friend groups are their social infrastructure. It's their essential life support. It's the key driver of everything they do. Huijin and Hui in Seoul, Korea, Huijin told me, COVID was a disaster. I was a disaster. I was so depressed. But then she went on and say, food is family. It makes instant family. So even if you don't know how to cook, you can make instant ramen for your friends and they can feel your love and care. And in fact, for this generation, cooking is a sign of well-being, especially when you're cooking for your friends. It's also a tool they use to feel better when they don't. They are fully hybrid, and these are steamed corn mushrooms. I don't know if anyone knows that. I don't think they're quite edible, but just like mycelium networks, they are multiplying and integrating connections to people, place, and the more than human world, including technology. I don't think they're going to be afraid of any of the new kinds of proteins coming out. Like Nick mentioned, they love both plant proteins as well as animals, and they also love mushrooms, and they love high-tech foods. So it's a very different relationship to highly processed foods this generation is having, because they're not just thinking about better for them, they're thinking about impact and what is better for the world and for everyone else. Next slide. Well-functioning culture. So this is what they're seeking. They're just at the beginning of their work life. Like they said to me, we're at the starting line. Please don't tell me the world is at the end line. And what do they need most? They need mentoring. They need leadership to grow their agency and well. They are seeking well-functioning culture in community. And they want to contribute to something greater than themselves. They want to make impact, which is creativity. They told me it's really hard not to feel creative. This is Evelyn, and for Evelyn, Goyo Adoba has all the flavors of self-discovery. She told me, waste hurts. Waste is a resource out of place, and I am a resource determined to find my place. Just like babies learn how to walk and run, I'm determined to learn. That's what Evelyn told me. They're also craving nature. And while their language is much more in the practical world, they're craving natural light, being outdoors, they're craving hiking in the forest, and eating biodiversely. Ari told me, climate is a lot spicier than it used to be. And in fact, spicy is the sweet sauce for this generation between discomfort and growth. They're carrying hot sauce in their backpacks to make bland, no change food a bit tastier. They are our hot sauce to wake us up to the changes that we need to make for this world. And they're also systems thinkers. They've been learning, as Nick said, from grade school that everything impacts, so impact everything. And food connects to everything. This is Olivia, a future food entrepreneur. We're just 1 year shy of seeing more Gen Zs starting their own companies. Olivia is rewriting menus and remaking worlds, and she wants us all to invest in the regenerative future. Roll video, please.
My boyfriend Christian considers himself a third culture kid because he is white American, but he grew up in Hong Kong. I'm not fully Chinese, I'm not fully American, so I'm this third version of it. I think Gen Z doesn't want to be swayed by promises on labels or like happy chickens on the package. Like, we want to know that it's actually working. I think the responsibility is in the people sourcing ingredients, making products, and selling them to us to make sure that they are doing it in a responsible way at scale. If I am what I eat, then this is who I am. Starting on the sort of basis of health and just kind of what my body needs, I always have greens like spinach and spring mix. I love green peas for the pop of texture and sweetness, and then avocado, I'm just a fiend for it. I love the texture and what it adds to all of these. If I'm doing any salad, stir fry, whatever, I have a tahini sauce with soy sauce and apple cider vinegar in it. I always go to honey for sweetness. This is regenerative sourcing of salt. And then trying to bring more of the ocean into my diet. So if I'm having seafood, which I started eating recently, I like tinned fish, and also trying to bring more seaweed into my diet. And then if I want like a starch, something a little bit more satisfying in that way, I love Banza chickpea pasta. And then this is an upcycled tomato sauce by Matriarch. This upcycled flour mix is great for baked goods. And then kombucha is a guilty pleasure. This is my attempt at regenerative diets.
Yeah, looks pretty yummy. They are our teachers of new ways. Blue is my story of love, of caring more, reconnecting deeply, and curing our separation. He is my story of regeneration. Roll video, please.
Yesterday, I went over to my friend's house, and she gave me a sourdough starter.
Oh.
And we like kneaded the bread. Mm-hmm. And then today, I'm baking it. I'm just trying to make the most out of like present moment. You can't really predict how things are going to change. Instead of planning out like a very specific life trajectory, just kind of go with what happens. Okay, I'm going to take the bread out now. Smells very baby bread. I don't know.
Uh-oh, okay.
Smells like bread.
What makes you want to take up space?
That desire to connect with other people, cooking for each other, eating out.
What makes you want to space out?
I think feeling stuck. Sometimes I get tired. Yeah, like anxious or depressed.
How do you get unstuck?
I think meditation is spending time with friends, to give food to someone else. And then also for yourself, making sure you do a good job, make it tasty and healthy.
So cooking is a practice of caring more? Wow. What's the flavor of trust?
Savory. Savory seems more reliable.
What is the flavor of change?
Sour. Because when things decay, they turn sour.
I love you, Blue.
Love you too, Mom.
Was this okay?
Yeah, it's good.
Can you ask me a question? Ask me anything.
What's your salad dressing recipe?
So it took Blue and I 6 years to turn our relationship into one that is delicious and nourishing for both of us. I hope it takes you much earlier. I'm proposing an ethnographic diet one that is about caring more, connecting deeper, and curing our myths of separation. This is actually what regenerative means to when I talk to a lot of consumers of all generations. That's sort of the essence of it. And currently it's a wide open signifier. And so can we keep it open for our Gen Z dreams and hopes? Gen Z are telling us they're just at the starting lines. How might we resource their future and their hopes? How might we resource the worlds they want to make? And I just want to thank all of you because you are all here nourishing our modern hungers. This conference, New Hope, is truly what it's all about. And so thank you all for helping us to care more and create new stories that have kept us apart. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Amazing. I learned so much from that content, and it's been wonderful working with Junjo. So we now have one more section to our State of Natural and Organic. We do pack a lot into these sessions, and so because we want to provide you with the full context as you head onto the show floor. And so joining us for this panel, we've got Gabe Brown, who is the founder of Regenified, a North Dakota farmer, a pioneer of the regenerative ag movement, and the star of the new documentary Common Ground. Welcome, Gabe. And we also have Caitlin Sakdalin, who is a content manager for Momofuku CPG brand and founder of the social influencer platform Be Fat, Be Happy. So, first of all, Gabe, it's so wonderful to be on the stage. I keep telling him he's my hero, but he is. And so I've always wanted to meet you in person, so thank you for making the trip to be here. You're doing so much work around the world to spread the regenerative movement, so thank you. And agency and empowerment are two of the themes woven throughout this year's State of Natural and Organic. And so I wanted to, start our conversation with having each of you tell us more about yourself through the lens of where you currently source or provide agency and empowerment, either for yourself or for others. And Gabe, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here today. I think in order to answer that question, we first have to take a look at what is regenerative agriculture, because that's the space that I've dealt with the past 30 plus years. And I defined regenerative agriculture as farming and ranching in synchrony with nature to repair, rebuild, revitalize, and restore ecosystem function, starting with all life in the soil and moving to all life above the soil. And why is that so important, and where is the focus of my work? Well, the focus is really using regenerative agriculture as a tool to find common ground for common good. I firmly believe that society today, we can agree on 85 to 90% of the issues. Well, what so often happens is we focus on those 10 to 15% of the things we don't agree on. Well, I think we should spin that. Let's focus on what we can agree on. And the one thing I know is that regenerative agriculture can help answer a lot of the issues we're seeing as a society today. For instance, climate change. Well, approximately 15 to 75% of the carbon that was once in our agricultural production soils is now in the atmosphere. Regenerative agriculture can pull that carbon out of the atmosphere and put it back into the soil, into the cycle where it belongs. Is your interest in clean air? Is it in water quality? Is it in water quantity? We can heal the small water cycle by using these time-tested ecological regenerative principles. Is your interest does it lie in profitability? Regenerative agriculture has 76% greater profitability for the farmer and rancher as compared to the current production model being used today. And then something that's near and dear to me and many of you here is that of human health. We are proving that using regenerative agriculture to heal our soils will then put more nutrients into our foods, and we'll have food that is higher in nutrient density, thus positively affecting our health. So let's find common ground for common good through regenerative agriculture. And every brand out here today can insist on sourcing regeneratively grown and raised products.
So true. Thank you, Gabe. Caitlin, tell us where you source agency and empowerment.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's amazing to be among these amazing people and all of you. As Carlotta mentioned, I'm Caitlin, and I have a personal brand. It's called Be Fat, Be Happy. I started it when I was in college, and it was just meant to be this kind of visual archive of everywhere I was spending my money while on food and eating throughout college, and it really turned into kind of this passion project. As it grew kind of greater than my own personal passion project, I realized that FAT is an acronym for food and travel, kind of two universal connectors that make us happy. And so my main goal through the content that I share is really to bring others joy and encourage others to stay hungry, to feed their appetite, feed their soul, and feed others. And I live by those pillars. They empower me in everything that I share, whether that's about kind of supporting local businesses in the area that I live in, uplifting the Filipino community coming from a Filipino heritage background, and sharing stories around the AAPI community, like Jake from Philo Manila, who was mentioned earlier, or even just showcasing underrepresented cuisines, cultures, seasonal ingredients, things like that. It all really comes back to those three pillars for me. And in addition to Be Fat, Be Happy, I also work in brand and marketing in the CPG space. Specifically right now, I lead content and community at Momofuku Goods. And our mission really aims to redefine what the American pantry looks like and how we can make cooking more accessible, enjoyable, delicious. And having the responsibility of putting out content day to day, I really am quite intentional about that content being valuable so that people can try new recipes, try great ingredients, and just have fun and experiment in their kitchen. We talk about cooking as a source of comfort and joy, and so I'm very intentional about that. And then in the way that we build out that community that we're sharing content to, specifically, we have this influencer program, and I really am very intentional about building diversity in that program and giving agency and access to people from all walks of life that are sharing content. We all have to eat, we all have to cook, and so it's really about just bringing those goods to the masses.
Thank you. And June, Joe.
So you've seen a lot of my work already. I'm a food ethnographer. I work with companies as well as organizations to help them understand their users. And then my husband and I, we have a children's publishing company called Readers to Eaters. We publish children's books about food, and we work with WIC and Ag in the Classroom and a lot of teachers, librarians, educators. And so, you know, we're at Gen Z right now, but Zennials and then Gen Alpha, Zalpha, I think are coming next. So we have a commitment to understanding what the next generation wants to eat. And with my best friend, Kirsten, who's here, we have a R&D, research and development through art, called Kiki's Cocoa in Wonderland, and we are putting on immersive ethnographic pop-ups. And for this year, ours is called Restaurant on Mars. What would a Michelin restaurant on Mars serve? Yeah.
That's amazing. I hope it's regenerative.
Yes, it has to be.
Exactly, it has to be.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about Gen Z. And you gave us such a great grounding in some, just really amazing, powerful humans that you brought to us through your work. And as we talked about, Gen Z is rising into power. They're inheriting the opportunities and challenges that the generations that came before them have created. And Junjo, from your research, you've shared a lot, but how does this generation, how would you describe how they're facing the future and how they might experience a concept like regenerative or a concept like equity?
Yeah, those are really, really big questions and tough. And so I'm just sort of channeling their language and their stories. If they focus on climate change and catastrophe, collapse, peak population, all of that, they can't move forward. I mean, I'm sort of stuck when I focus on that. So they are just trying to see step by step what they might do, how they might contribute. And one of the big areas is agrotech and sort of the new kinds of foods that can feed us in new kinds of ways, but really it's through inclusion as the new diversity. So rather than using food to separate, I think our dietary lifestyles, you know, vegans, it takes you 7 seconds, all that, they are actually inclusive. And so they're not using food to disconnect, they're using food to bridge.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. And so, Gabe, you know, what is your message for Gen Z? How are you passing the torch to this generation and other future generations? And what would you like to see from them?
Yeah, excellent question. Thank you for asking it. So I think it's important for Gen Z to realize that the current food production system, and I'll say, I have to just say that I don't think we have food so much today as food-like substances. I think we got to get back to real food, that the current production model was driven by consumer choice. But just like that's a model we want to move away from, and I really get tired of the word sustainability. I have the good fortune, I'm on hundreds of farms and ranches all over the world every year. I have never, ever been on a single farm or ranch that's not degraded, including my own. Why do we want to sustain a degraded resource? That's absolutely ridiculous. Gen Z can't afford for that to happen. They have to demand through their buying power and through their knowledge and learning that we be regenerative, so that one day down the road, future generations may have the opportunity to be sustainable. You see, they have to understand really what's happening with the current food system. Do they understand that tillage is one of the worst things we can do for both for climate change and for the nutrient density of food? So all the brands out there are you sourcing food products that we're growing through a tilled system. For those Gen Zers who, and I'm glad there's more and more of them that produce their own food through gardens, do you realize that by tilling that garden, you're having a negative impact on your own health? You need to understand that. Knowledge is power, okay? Your buying dollar, your decision making is power. You can change this. Each and every one of you, Gen Z, can make a difference by insisting on sourcing regeneratively grown and raised products.
Yes. And so knowledge is power. And Caitlin, you're in the business of knowledge. You know, you're spreading information and sharing connections through your own personal social channel as well as with your brand, Momofuku. And as you, and our research shows that Gen Z, of course, they're getting the information from social media to influence their buying decisions and their consumption habits and the issues they care about and engage with. And so what are the most creative and impactful ways to use social to inform and galvanize this generation?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think when it comes to social media and really kind of bringing importance to these issues, it comes down to a combination of 3 C's: producing powerful content, kind of providing the correct context, and then the last thing is really engaging and building a powerful community. When it comes to the content piece of this, social media is truly such a big beast. It kind of feels like this engine that constantly needs to be fueled by creativity. And when we think about Gen Z and what they're watching, we've been seeing that a lot of this generation is attracted to video content that speaks to daily lived experiences. And I've seen that kind of the most powerful creators online really know how to strike a delicate balance by showcasing both the mundane, just kind of the day-to-day life that we can all relate to, and also the memorable to hook people in, right? And kind of keep people engaged, keep them coming back as you're kind of telling stories. And so being really thoughtful about the content that you're putting out. And then that second piece of context when you're thinking about it, right, is why should someone care about what I'm talking about? And just like really thinking, is my content worth someone's time? Because time is a commodity. And now more than ever before, with how kind of social media works, you have to hook someone in within just a few seconds. So like thinking about that overall context of time and energy, as well as what you're talking about and getting people to care about it. And then when you have those kind of two things in place, it can become really impactful. I think the most important piece is really building that community that we've been talking about, and I think June talked about in terms of like friend groups and building the people around you. Really the most important way to grow and galvanize a generation around these kind of social issues is getting them to talk about it themselves. So when you're providing this content, giving the context, and then empowering them to talk about it on your behalf, that's when you can really spearhead larger conversations versus just being in an echo chamber yourself. And so part of that is really, it's not just your creativity, but it's just being super connected and on the ground, whether it's responding to comments online or just messaging people, kind of collaborating with people that have shared values with you and doing it together. It was showed in the presentation, a lifting tide rises all boats, and that's just true of community and the way that we have to use social media.
A mini masterclass in how to use social media to move a generation. I love it. Well, before we adjourn, I wanted to ask each of you one closing question. And what's the one thing you would share with future generations? And Caitlin, we'll start with you.
I don't mean to be a broken record, but for me, it really all comes back to staying hungry to feeding your appetite with kind of the experiences that make life joyful in this long life, staying hungry to feed your soul, which for me means to continue to learn and grow, a process of life that should never stop, and staying hungry to feed others. I think about some of my greatest influences and the people that have molded me and made me into who I am and fed into my life. And I think it's our great privilege and responsibility to do the same.
Love it. Gabe.
So I really think that it's upon each and every one of us to make a difference. You know, I love what was shown here this morning. The young lady who through her actions took the bromine out of Gatorade. I think that's fantastic. Never underestimate the power that you can make as an individual. You know, I just challenge everyone, go make a difference. Do it through your buying dollar, where you source, demand of them that they source regeneratively grown and raised products. Start within your local household, and then you move to your local community. What about helping the local school systems? Demand that they source regeneratively grown and raised food. And then you take it from there and expand it. Every one of us can make a difference.
Yes. And Junjo.
Yes, so staying hungry, taking action, and I would like to contribute to this beautiful potluck, staying curious. Ask your own Gen Zs. What are the worlds they're making and making themselves ready for, and resource those worlds. Keep the hope alive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I hope all of you are curious, and if you don't know a lot about regenerative agriculture, we are doing a film screening of the Common Ground movie that Gabe stars in. It's Friday at 4 o'clock, and I wanted to share just a quick trailer to get you inspired to be part of that.
I said this letter is a warning. If the soil dies, we die.
So I'm gonna fight to save your future. Nature is the mother of us all, and if Mama ain't happy.
But there's a way to save our precious soils. It's called regeneration.
It is not just restoring the land to the state we found it, but actually making it better. Can we mitigate climate change? Absolutely.
It's high time to finally get regenerative agriculture.
It could change everything. There's hope.
Let's get together before we get much older.
There is hope, there is agency, there is empowerment in our amazing industry. I hope you have an amazing, amazing Expo West. And thank you to our panelists, and we will see you out on the show floor.